Years passed and Tunde's business grew beyond his imagination. What started as a small design company turned into a creative empire. He mastered graphic design, animation, branding, and digital marketing, working with top international brands. The boy who had once been dismissed as not serious enough was now a CEO. He traveled the world, gave keynote speeches, and was featured in Forbes Africa's 30 Under 30. His designs were on billboards in New York, London, and Lagos. And then came the ultimate twist, one that nobody saw coming. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Tunde received a message. It was from Deji. "Deji, bro, I need your help." Tunde's eyebrows lifted. Deji? The golden child? Needing his help? Deji had been doing well abroad, but his success was no longer as effortless as it had once seemed. The economy was tough, job cuts were happening, and suddenly the once celebrated innovator found himself struggling to keep up. His company had been bought out, and many employees, including him, were laid off. With no job security, he was forced to move back to Nigeria. But home wasn't the same. The parents who once boasted about him were now quieter. The relatives who used to celebrate his success had shifted their attention elsewhere. Tunde, however, was everywhere. His face was on magazine covers. His name was being spoken in places where Deji's had once dominated. And for the first time, Deji knew what it felt like to be the other brother. So he swallowed his pride and messaged Tunde. When they met at a high-end restaurant in Lagos, Tunde was dressed in an expensive suit, looking every inch the boss he had become. Deji, on the other hand, looked lost. "I won't waste your time," Deji said, avoiding eye contact. "I need a job." Tunde leaned back, staring at the brother who had once been the family's pride and joy. He could have gloated. He could have reminded Deji of how their mother used to say, "Why can't you be like Deji?" But he didn't. Instead, he nodded. "I'll see what I can do," Tunde said. When their mother found out about Deji's struggles, she was in denial. Deji can't be jobless. He's too brilliant for that. But reality didn't care about brilliance. One evening, she called Tunde hesitantly. It was the first time in years that she had reached out to him for something other than small talk. "Tunde, my son," she started awkwardly. "You know Deji has always been there for us. Maybe you can." Tunde cut her off. "I already helped him, Mama. You never saw my worth, but Deji did." Silence. For the first time in her life, Mrs. Adewale had no words. She had spent years believing that Deji was the pillar of the family, only to realize that the son she had ignored was now the one holding everything together. A year later, Tunde received an award as Nigeria's most influential entrepreneur. It was the highest recognition for business and innovation. His parents sat in the front row, watching as the child they had once dismissed stood on stage, shaking hands with world leaders. During his speech, Tunde looked directly at them. "I dedicate this award to every child who was told they weren't good enough," he said. "To every dreamer who was compared to someone else, and to those who had to fight to be seen." His mother covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. His father wiped his eyes, overcome with emotion. The audience erupted in applause. But in that moment, all that mattered was that Tunde had proven, beyond doubt, that he was never meant to live in anyone's shadow. He was the light they never saw coming. From childhood, Tunde had felt unwanted, unseen, and unappreciated. He stopped trying to impress his parents. He distanced himself emotionally and physically. Even after becoming successful, he never relied on them or sought their validation. For years, Deji believed he was special, untouchable. He was always praised, so he never developed the resilience that struggle teaches. He thought success would always come easily, until it didn't. When he finally faced hardship, he was unprepared. Because their parents had always protected him from failure and made him feel superior, he never learned to fight for himself. And when life knocked him down, he had no idea how to stand back up, except to ask Tunde for help. When Tunde stood on stage receiving an award, it finally hit Mr. and Mrs. Adewale. They had been wrong. The son they dismissed was now the one they relied on. The son they glorified now needed saving. Their family dynamic had crumbled, and it was their fault. Nothing hurts parents more than realizing they pushed away the very child who could have been their greatest joy. Their regret was deep and painful, but some wounds can never be undone. The price of favoritism is too high. The Adewale family learned the hard way that comparing children does not inspire them, it destroys them. They lost Tunde's trust. They failed Deji by making him overconfident. They damaged their own legacy as parents. They created a rivalry instead of a bond between their sons. And in the end, they could never undo the pain they caused. Favoritism does not just hurt one child, it poisons the entire family. Final lesson. Never look down on anyone. The person you underestimate today might be the one you'll need tomorrow. Thank you for watching and for staying till the end. Please subscribe, like, and share if this story has impacted you. And stay tuned for more videos. Mr. Feel's Concept.